Hi, everybody. Welcome to this special election day version of the Values-Based Mindset Experience podcast. And as aptly titled, if I say so myself, since I titled it, we're talking about noise. Kenny Chesney's got a killer video and music song called Noise. And today I'm bringing over someone who knows about noise. He's got two young males in the house, not teenagers yet.
Not yet. Don't do that to me.
Yeah, but it's coming. It's Matt Churchill, the original GP, OGP as we call him, the original guinea pig of the values-based mindset method. And I wanted to start this off, Matt, with an IG post that I talked about earlier today, which is by this guy named Swede Burns, who I think is one of the greatest coaches in history, and he's a powerlifting expert. And Swede had a killer IG post. I'll see if I can link it for the version that goes to Instagram, but it's about extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation and why individually they're insufficient. You instead need to link them together if you want to get performance. So I thought we would start with me telling a little bit about where I'm at on that, and then kind of open it up, Matt, with you, and we start talking about noise and how it affects the values-based mindset, how it affects people, especially that don't have a values-based mindset. Fair enough?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So here's something that Matt knows about, and he can certainly speak to at length about me, is the noise has kicked my ass for years, right? I've done a lot of stopping and starting. I've made some improvements, which is great, but noise, and especially when it comes to fitness, right, to this big concept of fitness, even though the noise about running I'm completely immune to. I will say that running has no effect on me whatsoever. But like noise has always killed me, whether it's CrossFit or this or that. And I just recently started to experience the benefit of turning down the noise. Matt's been a big, I don't know if apostle is the right word, but a big proponent of Jim Wendler's 531 training program, and I've seen the results in Matt. And I was looking for some way to link my value of strength and resilience into some event that could keep me hyper motivated for a period of time. And I've always vacillated back and forth between intrinsic, it's all about values, extrinsic, I want to do X. And I just decided, you know what? I've always wanted to do a powerlifting meet. And definitely not in 2020. I'm not going to sit under a bar in 2020, like with a max lift. But 2021 in February near Richmond, I'm going to do it. I'm going to compete in my first powerlifting meet. And I feel great. I looked at the different stuff that was out there, pick Wendler's 531. One big reason was, you, Matt, you've done it for a while. So I got like an expert in my corner. I plugged in the stuff. I know exactly what I'm doing for the next 4 weeks. Everything. I know how I'm going to eat because I'm eating for powerlifting. It doesn't mean I'm eating McDonald's all the time. It just means that I'm not going to be hyper focused on trying to get super lean. I want to be hyper focused on recovering. And dang, Matt, I feel better. I'm much more immune to the zillion messages that I get being a coach and somebody who's out there about the different ways you should eat and should exercise. Because now I've got what Greg McEwen always talks about in essentialism. I've got a really good reason for no. And the no is not because what other people are offering is invalid. It's because for me to do what they want, I would have to give up what I'm already doing, and I'm not willing to. So that being the case, I was really looking at it, this extrinsic, intrinsic, and then I was watching Facebook start to melt down more. It's kind of like, the reactor core is already like failing, but the water ran out last night. And I just saw people just starting to really, which I knew it was possible, but I didn't believe it. People starting to really get more and more extreme in their pre-reaction to something that has not occurred yet. And I just watched the noise happen. So that being the case, let me kick it over to you for your experiences, and then let's talk for everyone else.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and we're going to talk a little bit about Wendler's 531. And let me just say this, and then I'll kind of switch to a broader topic that those who are not powerlifters can also hopefully connect with. But, whether it's Wendler's 5-3-1, starting strength, you know, whatever the system is, I think the key here to take away is that have a system and stick with the program for an extended period of time. Consistency is the secret sauce to all success. It just really is, unless you're consistently moving in the wrong direction. And I think that's why these programs exist. These programs exist because, you know, these are people who have tested these programs out. They, you know, they're using them in their lives, and you can see the results. And so, you know, Mike didn't just jump on 5-3-1 because he saw a Jim Wendler post on Facebook. He jumped on 5-3-1 because he's seen me use it for the last 3 or 4 years and have success with it. And not overnight magical success either. It's been a grind. And that's, again, another necessary element. So if you're consistently moving in a direction that, you know, is positive, then, you know, success is going to be there regardless of what system you're necessarily using. Now, let me kind of step back and go wide for a second on what you're saying, because there's one piece of noise out there, and I've heard it and heard it and heard it, and I heard it again today in a business meeting, and I've had enough of it, and I think it needs to be called out. And what it is it's this narrative that's being pushed that 2020 has been the worst possible year on record ever in human history, and that every single person right now should be feeling completely worn out and beaten down, and that you should be taking the next 3 months to stuff your face full of comfort food and drink a bunch of booze and just disconnect from the whole world. And let me just tell you, that is the biggest BS, and I'm going to keep it clean, the biggest BS lie that's out there. Because I'll tell you right now, 2020 has been the greatest year of my entire life. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not been the greatest year of my entire life because I've necessarily had a lot of economic success or a lot of business success, although there has been some business success this year, or personal success. In fact, it's been the greatest year of my life because it's probably been the toughest. It's been the toughest because I'm an extrovert who also has adult ADHD, who's been forced to work at home by himself every day. I don't have the accountability of people around me. It's been very uncomfortable psychologically, and I've had to learn to work through that. It's been the best year of my life because, you know, I started the year off or the pandemic, I should say, off completely on the wrong track, doing all the wrong things, eating the wrong things, drinking the wrong things, and still consistently working out. And again, thinking to myself, hey, I'm consistently working out, that makes everything else okay. No, because I was consistently going down the wrong road in other areas of my life. And those two things weren't compatible. And I was pushing the intensity way too hard. And I paid the price for it. And I had to learn from that experience. And now I know what that feels like. And when I start getting close to the edge, whether it's exercise intensity or just general stress levels, and people forget about, your body doesn't care whether you lifted a barbell yesterday or you had to deal with a really tough situation because a relative has COVID or somebody you are close to passed away, or you and your family are quarantined together now because somebody has COVID or been exposed. It doesn't matter to your nervous system. It's stress, and it's going to have an effect. And, you know, learning to recognize that may be the greatest gift I've gotten in my adult life. So, you know, 2020 has been a fantastic year because it's been an awful year. And that makes it great because I have learned from it. I'm not dead. I'm still here. So if you're out there listening and people are telling you, hey, this is how you should feel. You should be beat down. You should be worn out. You should be tired. You know, whatever your personal theological theory on hand signals is, I've got one that I'm a big fan of because I'm from New York and we like to use it a lot, and it involves one finger. That's the one well, sometimes I use two hands and one finger on each hand if I'm really emphasizing it. But, you know, don't let them push that poison into your mind. Yes, this has been a hard year, but you know what? That doesn't mean that, you know, you got to feel like it's the end of the world, or you got to feel beat down. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter who wins tonight in the election. It doesn't matter. It's not going to matter as much to your individual personal life as you think it is, as the media would have you believe that it is. Smart investors are good at one thing. They're sitting back right now. They don't have a dog in the fight. I mean, I'm sure they voted for who they want to vote for, but they're sitting here they're trying to figure out, how am I going to play this? How am I going to make money on this? If it's a blue wave, I got to invest this way. If it's not a blue wave and it's kind of a mixed bag, then we got to invest this way. I don't think we're going to see a situation where it's a red wave, by the way. I'm just going to go on record as saying that. It's not going to be a sea of red out there, but I do think that, you know, they're sitting back. The smart people with the big money are sitting back and they're positioning themselves for success. And that's exactly with a values-based mindset, that's what we got to be doing. We got to be thinking about, what are my values? And if it's Biden or if it's Trump, how am I going to operate in the new reality and still stay true to my values? And I think if you could just walk away with that, and then go get yourself a barbell and pick up 5-3-1 Forever by Jim Wendler, and everything's gonna be beautiful, baby. There it is. There it is. So
yeah, I'm with you on that. It's just really interesting because like the people that this election is going to affect the most are the ones that will not be watching or listening to a podcast because they're the billionaires, right?
Yep.
Right. You know, and so
exactly right.
I mean, and if you're hearing anything out, like number one, what you just said was awesome, right? You know, I saw it with you. We walked through it together. If you remember at the start of the pandemic, I was incredibly depressed because I made a lot of calls about what was going to happen and what it was going to mean for lots and lots of people because of decisions that a few people made and what it was going to do to small business ownership and values going forward. And I got really depressed. And finally, you know, you and my wife basically were like, hey, okay, enough doom or gloom. What are you going to do about it? And that's when this started. That's when the values-based mindset experience really started to come through. It became much more than a coaching method. It became a method of turning down the noise, focusing on what you know is true. At the end of the day, we're not in charge of whether or not we breathe, unless you're going to eat a bullet. We're just not in charge of what we think. What we're in charge of is when we get the opportunity, because of the gift of consciousness from God, when we get the opportunity to stop just for a second, reevaluate, kind of like what Jocko says, step back, disengage.
Yep.
Detach, take a bigger look, and then choose your path. And that's what I want people to get. The noise is the worst when you haven't designed your own life. You are vulnerable. It's kind of like the search feature goes broke on your radio, and when you hit the next station, it just keeps going from station to station to station to station. And I see so many people, Matt, that are out there, even in the highly successful fields, right? People that are very successful that are just completely, you know, enslaved to everyone else's opinion and everyone else's values. And I just pray that people won't let that happen to themselves, that we do the hard work of going inside, because until you go inside yourself and until you really examine, using a dictionary, by the way, we don't get to redefine values. We can talk about how we feel about the definitions, but like the values are the values, right? Like when you go inside yourself and you say to yourself, what does strength mean? You know, I recorded a podcast with a friend of ours, Matt Barrett, yesterday, in which we were talking about strength and how strength had never been really defined until a couple of years ago when I said some mean things to him. And he, because he's a man of integrity, decided that he was going to change. And it's been a miraculous change, just huge. But that's my thing for everybody else, is noise. Like Kenny Chesney talks about it. Everywhere you go is noise. How do you become that island of tranquility? How do you be like the Apostle Paul in prison singing?
Yep.
Praising, right? And that's what I think people need to hear. I know you, just like me, like for people listening, we're best friends. Like, so we're not going to share everything, Matt.
I'll share everything about you.
Yeah, fine. Like, it's on, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, how does the noise get you? How does the noise get you?
Yeah, absolutely. The noise gets me a lot. I mean, it's a major problem for me because, first of all, you know, just because of the way that I'm wired, I constantly have a running, you know, tape in my head 24/7, and it's, you know, it's annoying. It's an exhausting way to live your life when you constantly have this chatter. So, you know, there's some things I do on a regular basis to deal with that, but how it affects me, you know, are I you know, shiny object syndrome is a problem. You know, I'm on, you know, I'm very emotional, and so I react emotionally to things. And so, you know, when I see something that doesn't square with my value system, I immediately feel like, you know, I need to react to that. And that's probably the key problem here, is that, you know, I don't need to react to that. I need to evaluate it. And I need to sort of accept, okay, well, this is, you know, if it's somebody else's perspective, okay, well, that's their perspective. And they certainly are welcome to have that perspective. It's not my perspective. You know, I don't need to read. So Jim Wendler is a great example. I love Jim Wendler, and I believe in his process. But I'll tell you, you know, Jim says some things that I don't necessarily agree with. and they're not, fundamentally important things. A stupid one is that Jim Wendler loves black metal, which is a form of heavy metal. It's a very dark kind of form of heavy metal. I can't stand black metal. Now, I'm a metalhead from way back in the day, but
yes,
I'm definitely,
you are. Yes.
I'm more of a, I'm a thrash metal. I'm a hardcore, kind of guy. So it's like, but you can tell it shaped his perspective, and it frames out the way he sort of sees the world. Right. And I don't see the world that way, but I don't have to listen to every word he says or read every word he says and accept it. I look at what I look at the body of work. I say, what's important here for me to know? And then I move on with it. And whether it's Jim Wendler or Jocko Willink, and I think that's the problem, right? We're talking about people that 20 years ago would not be well-known names, if not for social media. And now all of a sudden you have all of these quote unquote influencers. And I think some of these people, Jocko would probably be the first one to tell you that, look, don't take my word for it. You need to come up with your own perspective, your own framework. And that's the noise we're talking about. Is there's a lot of people who have agendas, and they have financial reasons to get you to see things a certain way. Yeah. And they're going to keep you plugged in as much as possible. I mean, YouTube has an algorithm. There's a reason why people veg out on YouTube for 2 hours at a time. It's not by accident.
Don't attack me. Don't attack me.
I did the same thing. I have to stop myself. And so
I think
one of the things with the values-based mindset process, the system that we're talking about here, is that there's some non-negotiables that you got to do. And people hear that and it's all automatically, I even react negatively just saying it, and I know better, but non-negotiables, who the hell is going to tell me about non-negotiables? Well, here's the reality of the situation. You're going to hold yourself accountable, and you're going to be true to what you say that you believe in, and the framework that you say is the framework for your life. It's not going to happen by accident. You're not going to sit here and say, what's that?
Or you won't.
Or you won't, right? You're not going to sit here and say, hey, I want to be fit. I want to lose a bunch of weight, and I want to have a bunch of muscle. And then you just, you never go to the gym, you never do anything. I mean, I think everybody can agree that that's probably not the right way to go about that.
So let's stop there for a second. So you highlighted one of the greatest places where noise gets people, right? So let's talk fitness, not even talk about it. I'm sure you agree. The greatest lie is you can add a lot of muscle and lose a lot of fat at the same time.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
You'll be hormonally wrecked and very upset with yourself.
It just doesn't work. I'm getting ready to compete in a powerlifting competition. I'm not trying to lose weight right now. I am trying to add muscle. And if I do that well, I'm going to look better than I did when I was kind of waffling in between. But I'm under no illusions that I'm going to go from my current weight down 10 to 15 pounds and have six-pack abs, because with the amount of weight I'm planning on lifting, that's just not going to be intelligent. But the thing is if you don't design your day, somebody else will.
Yep.
And especially if you're a Christian, I find all these Christians that are miserable. And I think a big part of it is because they only bought half the product, right? They bought this happy, joy, Barney, really nice dude in the sky. What does Edward say?
The invisible, that's William. It's the invisible man in the sky.
They bought this God who doesn't have any power and doesn't really exist. And when the shit gets real, isn't there for you. And yet so many Christians, I'm a Christian, you're a Christian, so many Christians act as if the enemy doesn't exist. If you're going to buy that Jesus Christ died for your sins on a cross, well, then you also got to buy that there is a spiritual enemy who's personally out to get you. You can't have one without the other, because without that dichotomy, without that contrast, it's just empty. And it's the same way with mindset, is if you develop your internal value system, but then you don't, and that's why we call it an experience, right? You don't design each and every day around preparing, not, doing, but preparing to live out your values. You're letting everyone else play the radio station. You're that poor kid that's stuck in the very back of the station wagon that can't even touch the radio, and you're just a victim. Everyone else in the entire station wagon is playing their tunes, and you're just stuck in the back. And so that's really what I want people to get out of this is no matter what happens in the election, I'm going to release this later today, no matter what happens. And I seriously doubt we will know tomorrow, but no matter what happens, there's going to be a crap ton of noise if you do it. And you're not going to be able to avoid it if you're in the United States to a certain extent, but like it gets that radio station, you need to be able to have a buffer, just like, Greg McEwen in Essentialism says, you need to have enough of a buffer between who you are and what you've designed for your day, so that when you start to see this negativity and this toxic, mentality, whether it's right, left, or whatever, starting to come towards you, you need to be able to say it and say, oh no, pour some oil in the moat and light it on fire. That's not coming in here. What do you say?
I just say, I think you're exactly right. And I think, you need to ask yourself, and what you'll find as you get deeper into the values-based mindset system is you'll find yourself starting to automatically ask these questions because of things like the daily non-negotiables, which sort of start to condition your mind to do this, which is, oh, wait a second, does this match up with my mission? Because one of the things that comes out of the values-based mindset system is, not just the values, but then you start to formulate your actual mission. And when you start to formulate your mission, you start to become very aware very quickly of, hey, am this activity I'm engaging in right now, whether it be something as stupid as scrolling through Facebook, or it be something like, hey, interacting. Let me give you a real life example, because I hate to talk in generalities. So, I'm in a meeting this morning for work, and we have a new kind of big boss, and he's in. And, we had to go around and do the introductions. Now, most of us already knew each other, but it's, one of those formalities. You just do it because there's some new members to the team. You want to be, you want everybody to kind of get to know everybody. And, I'm immediately thinking about what I'm going to say when it gets to me. And all the things I'm thinking about are about, like, what do I want people to know about me? It's like very ego driven, right? And I quickly snapped back and said, whoa, what am I trying to achieve here? How is this what the words that are going to come out of my mouth? How are they going to further the part of my mission that is my professional life, which is a very big part of my mission in life. And it changed everything that I was going to say, everything, because I wasn't trying to sort of say, hey, look at me anymore. I was trying to communicate something that I wanted people to hear for a very strategic reason. And I'll tell you, I don't know what anybody thought about what I said. I didn't ask them, but certainly I'll bet it sounded better than what I probably would have said, which would have been a bunch of, self-aggrandizing BS. Because unfortunately, that's a big weakness of mine. That's one of my anti-values is ego. And so, I would say that, with the noise, with the election, with family members at each other's throats, with your friends and your colleagues at each other's throats, and hopefully not you and your clients, but I've seen that situation play out too. Look, take a big step back, take a big deep breath, and ask yourself, what am I here to do today? I'm hopefully here to help somebody achieve something, whether it's my kids or my spouse or my client or my friend. How can I think you put yourself in that, you immediately, anytime you look at yourself and you say, let me take myself out of this equation, you start to put yourself on the right path. When you get the ego out of it, I'm not going to talk about who I voted for because it's not important. But, let's just say if there's candidate A and candidate B, and I'm a huge fan of candidate A, just love the person to death. And, have a flag in my front yard and I got 50 bumper stickers on my car. That's fine. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. That says something about, my convictions and my political convictions. And as an American, I should have those. But, once I let that get in between my ability to make a positive impact on another human being, that's when it becomes a problem. Drinking isn't a problem for most Americans until it becomes a problem, right? It's fine. You're good to go until the DUI comes or the divorce comes or the, living under a bridge, selling pencils out of a cup comes, whatever it is. It's different for everybody.
Your pencils is a bad deal nowadays. That's not going to work at all.
Right. I mean, I know, right? I got to upgrade my game if I'm going to go down that road.
You don't have Wi-Fi.
The bottom line for me is not to ignore what's going on, because I don't think it's possible in the day and age we live in, nor do I think it's intelligent to completely ignore the data around you, but understand that it's just data. You don't have to react emotionally to it. In fact, you need to look at it and leverage it in terms of what your mission is and what you're doing and what your values-based mindset is. So it's data, leverage it.
Yeah, I would say, it's when you look at the noise, the first battle is inside yourself, right? Because our own brains are the worst enemies. And I think one of the places where we have the most attacks happen. And like when your identity is not defined by you, right? And then worked on and designed and tested, um, I think you have a lot of problems. Unfortunately, we have a very a consumer driven, very shallow culture in general, which means that most people's identities are formed externally, not internally, right? And so there's a reason I don't have a bunch of BS political stuff on the back of my car, and it's because I've taken a long, hard look at both political parties, and like I am not going to tie my identity as a human being to either one of those dumpster fires, right? But at the same time, I'm going to vote because I'm in America, and it's a right that a lot of people bled for and died for and suffered for, and so I'll vote. But like I always tell people, like I might think you're dumb if you vote one way or another, but I'm not going to think that that is a judgment on your worth as a human being, because it's all you. But that identity thing is so huge, Matt, and that's where I think people, if you get anything out of this podcast, and we're going to wrap it up in just a second, it's please hear me and Matt when we're saying this: design your life around your values and the actions you're going to do, whether you call them essentials or non-negotiables. There is a extraordinary amount of, I don't know if confidence is the right word, but clarity that comes from knowing that there are things that you're going to do each and every day because they express what humanity is to you.
Yep. And let me just like go ahead and let you in on the dirty little secret now for those listening. It's a boring process at times. It's not exciting. This is not anything you subscribe to on Instagram or Facebook. It's designed to look really exciting, like that new workout program, Purple Theory or, Spud Fit or whatever it's called. Right. It's exciting, and it's going to be exciting every day. And what's really fun is to suffer. Suffering is fun. No, it's not. It sucks. Suffering sucks. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I'm just telling you, it sucks. Doing your daily non-negotiables is boring after a while. It's really fun the first 3 days because you're like, yeah, I'm getting it done. And then after about, 3 months of it, you're like, ugh. But then you remind yourself, I'm doing this for a reason. I have a happier spouse. I have happier kids. I have happier clients. And because of that, I am a happier individual. And that, we can talk, this is another podcast topic, but yeah, the podcast topic is, find happiness by investing in other people's happiness. This isn't about you at the end of the day. So, that's the dirty little secret is it's boring and it's not about you. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's where I think most of the American church has missed the ball, right?
Well, the American church and Christianity in general, in my opinion, is the treadmill. It's the $1,200 treadmill that you buy, or better yet, let's put it in modern terms. It's a Peloton that you buy it, you put it in your laundry room, and you hang laundry on it. That's what Christianity is. I don't hate any other religion. And in fact, I'm actually envious of several of them, including the Muslim faith, because the Muslims, the few that I know, are devout and they practice their religion. They have 3 times a day. They have prayer time 3 times a day. When Rosh Hashanah Ramadan, excuse me, I'm mixing up my religions. When Ramadan comes around, they don't eat during the day. That's pretty hardcore. And while I don't subscribe to necessarily their theology, and I don't think they should subscribe to mine, I do think that there is something of value there when you see people who practice their religion on a regular basis, because as boring and as rote as that is, it reinforces the message. And that's what we're talking about here. So, we can talk, we have another podcast, I'm sure, about the failings of Christianity in the modern church. And I'm not qualified to point my finger at anybody, but I can tell you the failings in my own personal life with my faith have been very eye-opening. And again, 2020, fantastic year because it's brought a lot of that out. And I love 2020. I want to say thank you right now on record to 2020. You're an ugly year, and thank God for that.
Yeah, I mean, I always, at the end of the day, the core thing that we believe in values-based mindset experience is this: there are some of us that are willing to do the hard work of looking inside and defining who and what we believe in, and then doing the boring, unrewarding, and sometimes really weird work of preparing to act out our values when we most are going to be required to, you know? And that's the difference, preparation and effort. All right, brother. Got any last words for the people?
Get after it.
All right, man. Peace. Appreciate you, brother.
Talk there. Bye. All right.